This is the crew.
Amanda's coming.
Is she?
Yeah, she's just running late.
Okay. You just hit the red button?
Yeah, poke it. Poke it again. There we go.
Beautiful. All right,
And the
small
cameras.
crew. Very good. So pretty simple agenda tonight. We'll get started here. The minutes are attached from last meeting. Really, it was nice. It was a quick meeting last time. We were out of here in less than an hour, so I could see that happening again. Unfortunately, Don Wells is moving to Knoxville. That was kind of the big item last week, and then obviously the award of the RFP to AE2S. And then, just so everyone's aware, the next meetings will be tonight, which is June 6th, July 10th, and then August 7th. And those days should be on the city website already. So we'll meet at the same time, and then we'll follow up with the conservation meeting afterwards. So that's the plan. If anything comes up that requires our immediate attention, I'll send out an email to the group, and we can see if we can get together sooner. But
Do you have any extra agendas? I don't have.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right.
I'll get you.
She can have this one.
Package.
Okay, with the numbers on
Oh.
it?
Thank you. You want that?
No.
perfect.
Doesn't have the minutes. It's got the water
Oh.
usage.
So minutes wise, I think we're good to go there. Anybody has any changes or corrections, please let me know. As always, we'll have an update and we'll hit up and move forward. So the next topic is daily water usage. I wanted to, since we're kind of in the heat of it, I wanted to take the chance to go through where we're at today and talk through it. Raleigh was kind enough to give me some the daily usage, and I put that into a spreadsheet. Brian, I don't think I gave you one.
No,
Basically, it's a pretty simple spreadsheet. Its red line is our water usage, follows the numbers on the left. If you get to the top of the graph, that's our magic 1.6 million. The blue dots are whenever we had a rain event and how many inches of rain we had. If you want one, guys, you can have one too. So you can kind of see the trend.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. You want one?
Yeah.
Great. Nice job.
So basically what you'll see here is a couple interesting things. When we started to dry out, got towards the end of May, we had a couple small rain events, but the water started to tick up really quick, and we hit 1.4 million just right at the end of May. We had a little bit of rain. It was more of just a trace, and then it dropped back down, and then it kind of crept around. Then we had some good rain really right around the 3rd of June, and it dropped down, and then it has crept up, and the last date that we have was yesterday, which was 1.477 million gallons. A couple of things that I want to point out. These rain events that we've had kind of show an interesting telltale. And Kevin and I were talking about it real brief, but it's almost like a set and forget is how I think of my rain system, or maybe it was Brian I was talking to. But it's a set and forget is how I think of it. So if it rains, it doesn't run, and then less water usage. But in this case, most of the rain events have been too small to even trigger the rain sensors. Because most rain sensors are set at 1/4 or 1/2 inch if they're set incorrectly. But in this case, our rain events haven't hit that rain sensor with that much water. So that's why it catches me a little off guard that we are dipping down in our water usage. It shows that people are actually overriding their systems, which is a good thing. They're not watering when it rains, but it's not enough rain to automatically trigger it. So when we're thinking about conservation and how we're having people or recommending people set up their rain systems or their irrigation systems, we really haven't had any rain that would trigger it to not run, is what I'm getting at. And then the other thing that's a little concerning to me is we did have almost 1/2 inch of rain around the 3rd, the 4th. If people are already dumping a lot of water on their lawns. And they shouldn't need to put that much water on their lawn because they just had a half an inch of rain in the last 3-4 days. So typically, you want to have an inch of rain a week, and we're already coming on an uptick of how much we're going to have. So with the heat, yes, it's drying out, but people are starting to see their lawns turn brown a little bit, and it's starting to trigger up on how much that water use is coming up. So
Are those, do you think a lot of people have the rain sensors? I mean, is that built into the systems? I don't think we've got that.
it's depends on how new the system is. When we built our house 5 years ago, it was pretty much a standard. It wasn't even asked of me.
2004, 2005, wasn't it?
I built mine 5 years ago, so that'd be 13. So that wasn't really even asked of me then. It was just, there's this thing clipped on my gutter and it magically talks to it, so
That a lot of them don't have.
yeah. So with that, we're already creeping up to our 1.6 million. It's something that we're going to have to watch very closely. I did see that a notice came out on Textedly today as a reminder for the odd even. So we're going to be pushing that hard. One of the challenges is we have a lot of people that their care is very low. There's several instances where people have asked them and told them, hey, no watering from 10 to 6, and their response is, well, I know the rules. Well, obviously, you don't know the rules if you're watering between 10 and 6. So, you know, there's a little bit of concern there that are the penalties high enough, and so forth. So, water usage, I wanted to kind of wrap that up first, and then we'll switch over to the public outreach, but we're seeing the trend up, and I'm hoping we get some good rain to kind of keep that in check, but we're not in a great place.
So, Raleigh, can you tell if there are some commercial places that we should be talking to? Can we isolate those, you know, they could be pouring on a bunch of
For
water?
irrigation.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, they just go by their address, there's nothing in the ordinance that says they can't water from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning, so.
Right, but I mean, a commercial business could be, if they're not following the rules, could be dumping on a lot of water. Is there a
They'd
way to
actually,
isolate that?
yeah, they'd be actually easier to notice than residential, because it's kind of concentrated. It's highly visible, whereas somebody out in the bluffs or somebody in your neck of the woods, unless we happen to drive by,
Follow the water trail back to the house.
yeah, we gotta follow the water trail back to the house. That's an easy, dead giveaway.
I'm just wondering if there might be a couple big ones that we could hit if they're not following, I don't know.
Actually, I find more houses in the park dealership. Our neighborhood's the worst. Out of the 12 to 13 violators I've already caught and given notices to, half of them are park dealers.
Mrs. Bradley, all we have to do is have Lisa patrol the streets. She will go up to their door. She did that with me. She'll tell them.
No, I think enforcement gets better, because right now we're just handing out the, hey, this is your first notice.
Right.
So, once there's a penalty, it's
Yep.
like speeders. We can put a squad car out there, and yeah, they'll slow down, but if you issue a ticket, word travels fast in the neighborhood.
Right.
Like, hey, I got whacked $100,
Yep.
and it travels fast. So fortunately, we haven't had repeat offenders yet that we know of.
Yes,
So-
you do.
That I've given notices to.
Oh,
Not that I've given notices to. I do know there are people that have done it before, and I caught them and given them a notice. So, like I say, I've got, the violators are just odd even or 10 to 6 that I have. So that's not even counting. Some of them are watering on the wrong day, and Lance's warehouse was watering at 12:15 in the afternoon.
Yeah, see
On the
some
wrong
of
day.
those.
I almost walked out my sliding glass door because the rectory house is right behind me. And I noticed the sprinklers on in the backyard, and I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. They were just testing the system. They were just out watering just maybe 10 minutes. And they shut them down. But there was a guy out there looking at the system, but I was ready to walk out the door. But like where I live, they're not watering at all. They're not
No.
watering grass at all?
I talked to one of the owners up there,
Mhm.
one of the fourplexes. He said, well, should we turn it on, shouldn't we? So I said, well, here's where we're at. Hopefully, we won't go to 1 day a week, but it's up to you. So at least he's cognizant of it, and he's paying attention to it.
Mhm. Yep, he hasn't watered at all. I've been kind of watching around my neighborhood, and I'm not seeing any offenders at all. So, other than the other day when I was watching,
Okay,
just for a brief period.
so if we see something, how do you want us to handle it?
Call City Hall, or call
Well, what
Raleigh.
if it's at night? I mean, or in the
You can
evening?
leave a voicemail on the shop voicemail,
Okay,
or
in the
Yep.
evening?
City
Yep.
Hall's voicemail.
Okay.
It's easier for me to do that because then I can drive by during the day because they might have it set early enough. Now that we're starting at 7 o'clock, I can get around a little earlier and see,
The puddle?
Yep.
and I can follow the water and see where it's at.
And Dave's told his guys, as they're driving around at night, if you see somebody watering, write down the address, and then we'll check it out the next day. So,
So that's my, like, the ones that I called at. They aren't on your list, by the way, those 3 addresses.
Not yet.
Okay, I'm not saying get them on there right away or
They're
anything like
here,
that,
they're highlighted.
but, okay,
Drove by them today.
okay, so,
Water.
just so everyone is, just so I understand for sure, you call it in, like, I'm walking between 5 and 6 in the morning. I obviously can't call anybody then, but I suppose I could take a picture if you need a picture, but I mean, it's just like observation. I mean, obviously, the water is running, and they got to know, or I'm not saying they absolutely know, but if they're warned, then they could, it should come to mind, oh, I better check that.
and just call City Hall, leave a message with the addresses, because if they're watering at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, that curb line is still gonna be wet, or the
Oh,
fence,
yeah.
it's still gonna be wet when we get to work at 7. Raleigh will go out right away.
Oh,
Take a
you go
look
at
at-
7? I thought you worked there. Well, we can't
All
call
depends.
City Hall till 8, though.
Just leave a message,
Call, leave a voicemail.
just leave a
Okay.
voicemail.
All right.
Even at the shop, you can call.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got your shop number.
Yeah, just leave a voicemail, and then we'll get out right away. Like I said, that curb line or that street's still gonna be wet,
Yep.
so we can verify that they were, and we'll give them a courtesy notice.
Every place I go to, I take 2 to 3 pictures of every place I go to, try to get the irrigation system running. And then I also take a picture of the house number, and then it's all documented on my computer, so, for the paper trail.
Paul, you can patrol our area.
Easily.
Just drive up our street.
You can't do it with beer in
That's where they're all at.
It would be, everything's yellow right now on my street.
So,
But even with even with the rain that we have gotten, it is dry. I mean, the yards that people are not irrigating, it's pretty evident.
So,
A lot of them have already gone dormant with the amount of dry weather that we've had.
so on our Facebook page, do we tell them how to report it?
We can,
Yeah, I don't think that's very clear.
Call this number, leave a message with the address, we'll check it out.
The only problem I got with that is if I can't see it, then there has to be, if I'm supposed to be the one that's in charge of putting out the flyers, then I have to see it. If I don't see it, and everybody on Facebook starts saying, this guy's watering, this guy's watering.
Uh-huh.
Well, we have the Facebook.
I'm only one guy and I ain't getting my job done because I have to do so many other.
we'll put it out on Facebook and on the website. If you see something, call this number.
But on
Then we'll
our
verify.
Facebook, they can't respond, they just put it
Right.
in and it's not the back and forth stuff.
I have to be able to respond.
Yeah, they can.
You can
They
leave a
can.
comment on a post, can't you?
Just, yeah, you
Yeah.
can, but it doesn't get,
It
It's
doesn't
not
get,
posted.
it doesn't go both ways.
yeah,
Christina still sees them.
right.
And it's just like a misdemeanor. You can call in a misdemeanor complaint, but unless the police officer actually observes it, we can't write a ticket.
But when we call in, you can leave a reminder notice.
Well, we want to verify first, and typically, like I said, if you're out of 6, it's still going to be wet. If somebody calls in at 3 in the morning, that one's going to be tougher.
Then we
During
can
the
send
day-
the Police department, have the police department
Yep.
drive by it.
We'll keep an eye on it, then it gives us an idea, hey, we should go check this address, and we can do that.
Really too bad they don't have like a citizens police, like they do in some other towns where
Citizens
citizens,
arrest.
citizens will, go through a certain training and whatnot to be like, to monitor trails and whatnot, and maybe that's something the citizens could monitor, like in whatever neighborhood or whatever. Something for future thought.
The first year will be painful.
Yep.
Well, and for citizens to remember, first, that it doesn't mean just because it's your day, you have to water. I think that the inch a week
Oh, really?
message, or I didn't get to water yesterday, so I'm going to double my water usage today, that's not helping. The message should be an inch a week will get us through, and the penalty beyond the, citation you might face, the penalty is we end up going to once a week lawn watering, or worse yet, no lawn watering. So, when we talked originally about this tiered system or tiered approach to the lawn watering schedule, it's to help our citizens understand we're trying to help you help all of us. So, right, Raleigh is one person, and you can hang all the courtesy notices we want. We need to continue to do that, but with the message of, and if we don't get compliance, like voluntary compliance, here's what's going to happen. So, I like the idea of citizens being educated and calling in and saying, I saw somebody, would you please go check it out? But we also have to remind the folks who are, say, willfully ignoring possibly the watering schedule is, what's going to happen next is if we go from green to yellow,
Then my
It's-
job goes twice a
well,
Well, that makes it easier.
but then it's,
month. Yeah, but I gotta do twice as many is what I'm saying.
we're doing our best to let the public know well in advance before we go to the next thing. We need people to remember why we're doing this at all. It's not that, we want to see someone issuing citations. We just want to manage the water this summer. That's it. Help us do that.
Well, and this is posted on Facebook too, or is that just on?
We post it on the website, the
Oh,
daily
okay.
water
It's on the
usage.
website every day.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So,
I mean, it's clear to me, we're gonna probably be banning water again.
Hope not.
This summer.
Kevin talked to me Monday night about textedly and sending out text messages about water usage. I don't want to send it out every day, because then pretty soon it's
Right.
like,
Right, yeah.
eh.
Uh-huh.
So what I was thinking was when we hit like 1.5 or 1.4 or whatever, if we send out a message at that point in time, send it out, hey folks, we hit 1.4 million today, or whatever that trigger is, just as a reminder that, hey, we're getting close to that 1.6. And then I think when we hit 1.6, we'll just send it out, hey, we hit 1.6 today. If you do it 2 more days, we're moving into yellow, which is 1 day a week. But I was thinking 1.5 maybe to send out the textedly.
yeah, and that's kind of the next
Yeah.
item, so we just will move into that is the public outreach. And, the slippery slope of too much communication versus not enough, and you're getting it exactly right, but, if we hit 1.6, I think we need to send a notice immediately.
That's going out everywhere.
And having hit round out 1.5 already yesterday, we're already in the thick of it. So,
And if that does happen, we're gonna need 5 rallies, just to, is there any thought to who, I know you've got the police force, you've got other people on hand to step in if they need to. Because when we hit that next stage, that's gonna be pretty critical.
Are the fines more substantial in stage 2?
Nope. Nope, it's per violation.
Well, it's become a self-penalty because it's our citizens not following the lawn watering schedule that leads us there, and then everybody suffers for it,
Right.
right? So it's not just the financial penalty of, here's your citation, it's, well, now look what's happened. Now, none of us get to water on our days because we've got, clearly from the graph, we've got water usage that keeps going up, and people either aren't getting the message, they're not paying attention, we're not reaching the right people the right way, or You know, some people are saying, well, everybody else should do it but me.
It's just me.
Or, yeah,
I'm just watered today,
Right.
it's okay.
And that's the feedback that I'm getting is people know what it is. I've bumped into quite a few people and in my neighborhood and talked to them, and some people don't know and genuinely don't know that we're in water restrictions, which I don't understand because it's multiple venues we've approached it. But there's people that do know the rules and just don't care. And that's the part that's disappointing to me is, you know, why are we,
They think
Why
they're
are you-
above it.
right? You know, and we're all in this together, and the whole point of working on an odd even schedule is you take your turn, I'll take my turn. And, you know, working through it, and if we get to the 1 day a week, then we're spreading out our turns farther and fewer in between. But there's
There will
this
be more
whole thing
violators
of,
that-
Yep.
are you holding each other accountable, and then,
How do
So-
you think Sioux Falls got theirs? I mean, they've had it in place for quite a while. Do you think eventually it just got in the, you know, everybody got in the know?
It-
How did they do it?
Like I said the other night at the council meeting, it's a journey, not a destination. That it's like sidewalk snow removal requirements in the winter. It is a constant educational effort. People, either they move to town and don't know, or they claim they forgot, whatever. So when Sioux Falls went to year-round, odd even, let's just make it simple. If you're going to water your lawn in Sioux Falls, these are the standards you have to adhere to all the time, not just when it gets dry. But it took years. It took years.
Well,
And
don't you think that they had enough incentives out there too? I mean, and it wasn't just lawn incentives, it was indoor, outdoor, both. And anytime you can bring the indoor usage down too, that's gonna help.
oh, sure,
But I do think the incentives helped.
the plumbing retrofit program,
Right.
beginning with the toilets and the washing machines, and then expanding onto rain sensors and the irrigation timers, all helped, but it took years.
Yeah.
And it began with odd even, an odd even lawn watering schedule and equal parts enforcement and education. So
And-
the people that get it, get it. And the people that don't sometimes have to be reminded because they forgot or just didn't know. And you know, the others,
I think
They're-
we're
they're
always
always
gonna, I think we're always gonna run into the people who think that the rules don't apply to them. I mean, that's apparent pretty much in any, it's in work, it's at home, it's kind of everywhere. And until they get to start paying fines, then maybe they'll get it, maybe not. One question, if somebody were to call into City Hall, can they remain anonymous?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who want anonymity. They don't want their neighbor to find out that they called and turned them in.
It's anonymous, just like if somebody calls in with a nuisance complaint, hey, my neighbor's grass is too tall. I don't want them to know I called. Not a problem. We'll go out and check the address, and we don't name names. If somebody comes into our offices, and they do from time to time, who turned me in? We don't know. It was an anonymous phone call.
so if we do a Facebook post on how people can call, let's make sure
Yep.
that we put the
I
word
think that's,
anonymous.
I think that's important, because then people might be a little more inclined to call and say, hey, my neighbor is watering. I don't want them to know I called. But if they leave a message, there's probably, I don't know if you have caller ID at City Hall.
We do.
Well,
But
if people really wanted to block their phone number, all they gotta do is dial *67 and their phone number's blocked. Nobody will know.
no, we don't release complainants' names.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll just make sure to do that. The other thing, kind of building off of that, why does it work better in Sioux Falls? They've had time. But the other thing is their enforcement is much easier because they can pull their meters daily. So you can see who used a bunch of water on an even day and they're in an odd house. And you could see that potentially. Now, is it gonna be you instantly know that they put it on their lawn? No, you won't. But it's gonna help weed out false alarms for Raleigh to go look at. because you're gonna have a trigger point, and you could run a report that says who used over X thousand gallons of water on an odd day. This person did, okay, boom, Raleigh can go look. So there's some other pieces to the puzzle that, when it comes to technology, we could definitely benefit in the future from technology like that.
When we upgrade our meters.
Yeah,
One of the issues with that though is they could have a stool that's running.
exactly.
That's a bigger user than anything.
Yep,
I mean, they could have a water softener that's constantly regenerating.
yep,
They could have an actual water leak in the house that's running in, into the sump pump or something.
Yep.
They don't realize it.
But at least then they would know that they've got an issue, and it'd behoove them to maybe,
We can
Check
contact
it
them and
out.
say, hey, you might have a problem.
and that, honestly, I think I mentioned it before, but that would have helped me last summer, because my wife turned the soaker hose on and went to do something with the kids, and then a day later, we found the soaker hose on still. So the city would have given me a call and said, hey, you got a stuck toilet or something, and it would have saved me quite a bit of water, so.
And I don't know when those meters are in the budget to be replaced.
They're about 250 to 300 bucks a piece.
Yeah. it's a
And that's for the
ways
head.
They're more than that.
Well, that's not installed.
That's
Yeah,
probably a
well,
ways down
price-
the road.
And that's just the head.
Price has gone up.
Has it? Because we talked to him, what, last fall?
I've talked to him since then, and, the price is about for a whole new meter, you're looking at about $385 for one of those.
Yeah, we can just get the head on some of them.
Some of them we can replace the head, but some of them, a lot of our meters are to the point where we're getting the point where they've been in for 10, 11 years, 2 years that we started putting all
Yep.
those in. And the battery life on them is only 10 to 11 years,
Oh.
9 to 10 years. So
Sure.
we're having to go back and replace them already, and then if you go and start replacing them with this other head now, you're gonna have it's a more powerful signal it sends out, what it
Yep.
does.
So we can
And
read
then
it
you
from
also
here.
have to start putting, you may have to put
Repeaters.
some type of repeaters up on light poles, which is Valley Energy does not like anything on their light poles.
But I think it's a good goal.
It's a good goal, and it's something that we could be proactively looking at now for replacing meters.
Yep.
Maybe we should be replacing them with the new
What's
tele,
a
whatever
repeater?
meters.
It bounces the radio signal. It enhances it so it goes further.
Oh, gotcha.
So the meter pops off a signal, hits the repeater, and then it can go further.
Continues on,
Yes.
gotcha.
So
It
you could
repeats
read,
the-
yeah, you could read the meter at City Hall
Yep.
or at Raleigh's shop instead of having to drive the truck down the road.
Check.
How many people are signed up for text alerts?
Oh, Christina told me Monday night.
Last I heard it was in the 500-ish.
Yeah, 600 roughly. So I think that's a great way to do it, to send the notices out, hey, we hit 1.5 or 1.6 today. The problem is, I think, in my opinion, those people that are signed up for Textly aren't the ones that are watering when they shouldn't be.
Right.
It's
Are
a
we gonna
really
put something
small
in the
percentage
paper?
of
Yeah.
the city.
If like weekly or?
The problem with putting in the paper weekly is say, hey, this week it comes out, we're in green. We could go to yellow tomorrow,
Right.
and people go, well, I read in the paper, we're in green.
Well, I guess, and I'm thinking something like the
Yeah,
usage, the
we
daily usage.
we can put the
just
daily
be
usage.
informational.
Yep. We can do that. I'm just concerned that if it's in the paper, it's green, we go to red sometime before the next paper comes out.
Okay, yeah.
No, it says right here, we're green. I'm good.
Well, she is putting it in the paper.
Yep.
As of June
Yep.
5th. And I think that's where the education and awareness comes in, that is corresponding with the publishing date. And where do you go to get the current info?
Yep.
And that's what's brought me here tonight. I think that we can do a lot more awareness with the people that just don't know. The other 9,500 people that aren't signed up for text alerts.
how many subscribers do they have at the paper, do you know?
Is that over 600?
I'm not sure.
Can
I
we
think
use
there's
that,
1,000 people untexted, 1,021.
Oh,
can we
wow.
use that alliance?
So that was a big growth from,
Can we use
22
that
this
alliance,
month.
can we use the alliance channel?
yep, we do. Very few people.
I know, I mean, we're.
Everybody gets their news
See, and that's
somewhere
the
else.
thing is, I mean, at this point, and the reason I put public outreach on here is, I mean, we've got it on our city Facebook page, we've got it on our city webpage, it's been in the mailers, there's other Facebook pages that have it as their banners, I mean, it's everywhere.
I've even thought about doing a separate non-utility bill mailer, with an explanation and even mark on the envelope, please do not throw away. Please
Yeah.
open and read important information
Why don't you just
regarding,
do a postcard,
something that is something separate so that,
some colorful
That's
postcard?
actually a topic that we want to discuss at the Conservation Committee meeting tonight is, like, we were talking about doing a July stuffer, but maybe we can coordinate information that we got from Mick, from Lepetsky's, into that kind of information,
I'm just
have it
thinking.
go out as a separate
Yep,
thing.
separate mailer and a different colored envelope. I was printing on it because, you know, there are quite a few people that don't read it. Their utility bill, it's either an ACH or they
Right.
throw it in the pile and then they just pull the bill out. We know that. But if we
Yeah.
can send out a separate one that says, water conservation information enclosed or something like that, I think that might help. We've already done the mailer to everybody.
There is a little lull now in between political campaigns, so. you know,
Yeah,
as-
exactly. I was just gonna say, we're not getting jumped.
I kind of agree with Barb, though. I think if it's a postcard, people are gonna pick it up and read it versus opening an envelope,
Correct.
you
Yeah,
know,
just
so,
something simple
Use the
like
little
that.
Yep.
thing.
yeah.
How much are those portable signs that were used last year for the van?
They're expensive.
$1,200 a week per sign.
So about $5,000 a week
Wow.
is what it's gonna cost.
Where would you put them?
You would put them on at every entrance into town.
So Corson,
Yep, the highways, north and south, Holly on the west side and Aspen on the east.
Michigan.
About $5,000 a month, $5,000 a week to rent those. And the problem is, we certainly can't afford to do those all summer.
No,
And
like I
unfortunately,
said,
once you take them down, water bed's done.
my
Yeah.
idea was to be an attention getter.
Mm-hmm.
Lawn restrictions enforced all summer, see city's website.
Yep.
Or something that catches all of these people that didn't get the mailer in their water bill or aren't on social media. I just think there's more that could be done.
Those are a good idea, but like I said, once they come down, the watering bans are done.
Could we use some of Dick's signs? Those were 175.
I mean, we could, and also in next year's budget, we're gonna have, message boards in the budget. Yep.
What signs were you talking?
Those yellow ones, those rolling signs, I had those for the election, and they were like $175 for a couple weeks, I guess. Dick Pickering doesn't.
You know, if,
They don't get as much attention, but
They-
something.
they don't, but if we had
But
them
it's-
at strategic locations,
Mm-hmm.
that's an awful lot of people coming and going every day who, maybe it will spark them.
We had it across from Oak Ridge, and, you know, you put one down by the Holiday Inn someplace, or the warehouse, someplace. Not the warehouse, but Tim Jorgensen someplace.
There's one up by Tailgaters. I remember seeing it up that way.
And, he might let us put one by the pharmacy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta put it out, so you
Yeah,
catch the people in the bluffs,
Yeah.
you gotta catch the people at Bethany, so you gotta be all the way out there, you gotta be all the way out by the track, and then probably up at the hotels, so people come in.
That's a question for water conservation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people are just clueless.
And some people just don't care.
I think
So,
it's more accurate. Yeah, it's me, sorry.
so I think A for effort, I think is the general. When it comes to public outreach, I mean, I think we've done a lot of great things. I think it's been appreciated to have the water usage on the website. I know that a few people have reached out to me and said that was good, that they could see how much we are using. And a few people have commented on it being in the newspaper and the Trader. So, you know, that's something that maybe more of a call to action, Dana, about go to the city website to see the most accurate, something like that. I don't know, but Water Conservation Group will have some great ideas for additional research, outreach. Anything else on outreach that anybody's heard or feedback or concerns? Quiet group tonight. next item, AE2S contract status. I just wanted to have a quick update. I think the mayor signed that last night.
Everything's signed. I got an email from Richard. They're working on it, getting a kickoff meeting ready to go, so I would imagine in the next week or two at the latest.
So what happens at a kickoff meeting for a project?
Something like this, we sit down, kind of talk about our expectations, what they plan to do in more detail than what we got during their presentation.
Okay.
Kind of some timelines, some goals, some targets to hit.
Okay. Is that open to the public then?
Typically, no.
Okay.
There will probably be a list of, I don't want to say a homework assignment, but data requests.
Mhm.
Here's some
Yep.
information that AE2S might need from
Yep.
the city that may or may not be available, and guys like Raleigh might walk out with, more things to assemble and provide back. But that's kind of the purpose, is just what have you got? What do we need? How long is it going to take to get to the next progress meeting?
Okay.
They're meant to set expectations from both sides, make sure that lines of communication are open from the owner and the consultant.
Okay.
And then sometimes you might identify risks involved with the schedule, or like Brian said, you talk about the schedule and maybe if there's any risks to that.
Okay.
Very good, simple. I just thought it'd be good for the group to hear that it's marching along, and we'll definitely keep everyone updated on what the schedule is, any changes or anything like that along the way, and I'll be involved in that. So.
I would anticipate we'll get a draft or a proposed schedule at that meeting, and we can get that out.
So Brian will communicate that out to the group so we have it. Next item is the Stockwell Water Study update, just so we understand what the timeline looks like on that. We did receive that April, so
Yep.
just kind of talk through that. Brian, you kind of got that in the report.
We've got it, it's still draft, it has not been presented to the city council. Somewhat hesitant to do that at this point in time, because when we did the RFP, I want to see new ideas. I don't want to see a rehash of a Stockwell study. So I don't want an expensive peer review, not that AE2S would do it, but my anticipation with the RFP, or the study, I can't call it the RFP anymore, the study, is that they may come back with all the same stuff, I don't know, but I'm looking for some new ideas. If we miss something, I don't want AE2S to look at that update and go, oh, hey, here's our study, because there's cost estimates in there and everything else. So I don't want just a peer review of the study.
Mm-hmm.
I want a full-blown study from AE2S that
Will that be made available when the recommendations from AE2S come about?
I'm looking at sometime as AE2S gets moving
Uh-huh.
on theirs, we'll give the presentation to, have Stockwell's give the presentation to the council, and then it's open season on it. But I'm looking at sometime later in the summer. We'll have it on the agenda, the city council agenda for the next meeting to see if they want that, when they want that presentation.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Pretty quiet group. This is going to be aiming a new record.
Okay, that's fine.
We should have another one at 7.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, 4 of us.
There you go. You guys can start right away.
Stay with your water conservation. If you guys want to come up with some ideas for that postcard,
Yep. That's actually on our agenda, is to
Good.
come up with something for some more educational things.
and in the meantime, I'll talk to the mailers and get a cost estimate for a postcard. I don't think it's going to be all that expensive.
Okay.
So if you guys want to come up with a body for it, we can
Okay.
get it up to them next week probably and get it out.
Do you want to quote that here in Sioux Falls too? Is that who we would go through, or do we go through that?
We go through up in Aberdeen or wherever it's at.
Qualified pre-sort.
We don't, we use a different one that we've used.
Oh,
No, our billing,
Oh, the building one.
yeah.
That's,
They've got all the addresses.
Oh, sure.
So does that go, that just goes to all people
All
that have
accounts.
water bills
Yep.
though? do we want that information to go to everybody?
I mean, we certainly could, we've got 3,300 accounts. That certainly doesn't, I don't think we need to spend the money to send it to an apartment dweller. Because they don't control the sprinklers. It's the
Right.
owners that are gonna control the sprinklers, or whoever's name is on the account.
Bulk mail would go to each apartment.
Yep,
Okay, just wondering.
yeah, so, you know,
We'd have to look at the cost impact, because a bulk mail might be cheaper to do
could be.
all versus.
We're just gonna add a
targeted.
significant number to the mailing.
Yeah, I don't remember.
We can run it, see what it is.
Barb, did you do a bulk mailer for the election? I think you did, right?
Just for my ward,
Or just your ward?
wasn't bad.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're only like, the mailing portion of a bulk mailer is like 17 cents or something. That's pretty cheap, I think, so.
Performance Press did it, so.
Oh, did they? Perfect.
Yeah, if you can get us something.
Mhm. You need it by when?
I'm gone Friday, early next week, and
Okay.
we'll get it out as soon as we can. Hopefully next week would be good, because we're kind of in between billing cycles.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah, that'd be a good point. Well, that's the agenda. Does anyone have anything else? We're happy to go through if there's anything else. I think the biggest item right now is where we're at on usage. It's close. I'm expecting an email from Raleigh any day that says we're there, so, which is
I was just
important.
gonna let you know too, just in correlation to the water usage. Excuse me, since July 1st, the plant influent has registered 562,000, 545,000, 560,000, 596,000, 560,000, 556,000. So it doesn't, I think your water usage is 90% of the yards. It's not coming from the older schools like Sioux Falls had. You know, they had areas that were developed in the 30s,
Right.
20s, 30s. So they were still using the older style schools and stuff. But I think ours is just plain and simple water usage on their yards.
Yep, that's a very, very good point, Raleigh. Thank you.
We monitor that every day this year.
Yep.
So do you think
The only
that,
time that actually, sorry, the only time it does go up is if we get a little bit of rain, then we get iodine from
Yeah,
some
sure.
of the manholes leaking, you know, they got the pick hole in them. and
Yep,
water
they'll get a little bit of water out, for sure.
so do you think as a group, we can make a more concerted effort to try to watch homes? And I know like Brian said, you know, it's at 9 o'clock at night, by the time Raleigh looks at it at 7 in the morning, there's not gonna be any evidence, but, you know, the whole neighborhood watch kind of program, is there any way we can, I mean, I'm usually not up at 3 a.m. in the morning, but I suppose I could be up driving around.
Well, that's why I said it's better to have the police department watch mostly at night. During the day, my guys can take most of that, but if the police department would see it, I guess I'm just trying to say that if there's gonna be one person that's handing out these notices, or one group, then that's the group that needs to do it. So if the police department's gonna be putting the tags out on the door, then they're gonna have to document it, then they gotta get back to me anyways, because I'm kind of the record keeper of all this.
Yeah, I don't wanna have
So-
to do that, I just wanna make a call. I
No,
just wanna call
if
in.
you're out at 11 o'clock at night and you see somebody's water that's odd, or even it's a violation, call, leave a message, and at least that gives us an area to look.
Because we got 10 people.
Yep, so if you see
Right now,
something,
my guys don't even look. The only time they actually will go out, and, I mean, when we did this, when it got bad enough where we were going to the van, I had guys that were actually driving the streets before they went out and did their blacktop jobs. And I don't have enough people to do that, so I actually just tell my guys, if you see something that's, you know, just because they see somebody watering before 10 a.m., they might not call me. So it doesn't mean it's the wrong address for the day, it just means they're not gonna take the time because they're busy doing other things. But if they see one at noon, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock till 5:30 in the afternoon, it's pretty obvious when you can follow the trail halfway down Chestnut
Yeah.
that you've overwatered
poor
your yard.
guy,
And he actually got two violations on the same ticket, which he could have had 3, because he did water for 4.5 hours in the same spot.
and Paul's out and about too.
Intentionally?
No, I think it was a malfunction on a sprinkler, because I noticed water running down Chestnut at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I turned around, traced it back, and the guy was watering the sprinklers are going at 2.
Is that the one on Lopez?
No.
Right there?
The one where you saw me put
Yeah.
the notice.
Okay.
That's, yeah, I saw you there.
So I called Raleigh, Raleigh went out and looked at it, yep, they were still going. So, and it was a side yard, so going home from work at 5:30, I drove by it again and they were still on, same sprinklers. So I don't think he was intentionally watering his yard, I would say it was a
Valve got
malfunction
stuck.
of the sprinkler system. But he's gonna have a heck of a bill.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at least 5, I would say maybe closer to 6 hours of sprinkler heads running.
You know, if we let them know, that helps them out.
Yep.
Well, you might have an issue with his irrigation system, which means there is somebody there to fix it.
Because it doesn't, the rest of his yard,
It's not as green as that
No.
was. But that's shaded though very well.
Yeah. So Paul Clark, our building inspector's driving around too, and he's been told if you see something,
Sure.
let us know. I usually try, when I'm coming home for lunch, I usually buzz around town, checking things out, a little bit more than during the winter. So there's people out and about. The cops know if you see a sprinkler, write the address down, let us know. So we've got some eyes out there.
Are the cops empowered, or the police, are they empowered to hand out green tickets? or no?
We're trying to isolate it to Raleigh.
I'm the only person that has the green tickets.
I almost wish we could have them hand out the green tickets, because if they see it, I mean, they can hand out a real ticket, I don't see
Yep.
why they couldn't hand out a green door hanger. You know, grab it out of their squad and hang it, and
We
then
can.
they
I
tell
can
you,
talk to
they
Dave.
send you an email that says, I just,
You do
but I don't wanna put the burden on them either.
No,
But if they're
Well,
there and they see it, and
it-
they're gonna
yeah.
call you anyways, they just as well get that first notice stuck on the door.
it's more, it's easier to keep track of records if you've got a few people doing it. As to
Right.
who's handing out notices, because Raleigh keeps track, I handed out this notice on this date for this violation.
Right,
Yeah.
and everyone
But
is
they
supposed
do
to
that even
write
with
it down.
the-
Correct.
Even with the streetlights, if they've given me a list of 28 streetlights one time, that they just, I told them, if you see a streetlight out, there's a number on the pole usually,
Yeah.
give me the number, I'll put it all on an email, send it to Sioux Valley.
Sure.
And I do that all the time, so Barry was a good one for that.
Yep.
Yep.
Even in the parks, he'd break down the light by the bridge without.
So we've talked about it at department head meetings, everybody, if you see somebody that's in violation, let us know
Sure.
and we'll get it out there.
Yeah, it'd be just one of those where, if I tell you I see somebody watering, that's not good enough for you to put a note on it. But if the police says, hey, I saw somebody watering, to me, that's good enough, you could go put a tag on it without seeing it. That's the
like
question
he
I
said,
have
though,
is,
That's like he said though, because it could be considered a misdemeanor, which even if the police officer doesn't see it and write the ticket, and I'm the guy that's writing the ticket basically because I gave them their
sure,
first violation, then
If
I
we,
didn't see it.
yeah, if we let the police do it,
they
which is,
have to stick.
we need the same documentation, we want pictures of the sprinklers going off, plus the address, because believe it or not, with trees, we found out that yes, we trimmed your tree, no, it wasn't my tree. So we actually, when we were out trimming trees, we took a picture of the tree and the house. So we could tell people, yes, we trimmed your tree.
Don't start the trees.
I just deleted 1,147 pictures because I know it's coming.
I know. Oh, we're gonna talk about trees more this year with the emerald ash borer, so.
That's
Why,
right.
why would the police have to do all that documentation though? I mean, if they see somebody speeding, they issue a ticket, why would they have to take pictures?
Because that's what we document, so that when somebody comes into our office and complains it was not my sprinkler, it was not at this time of the day, we can pull it up and say, here's your house, there it is.
I think it's more
Believe
of
it
a
or not, people
continuity
do not
thing,
believe us, yes.
Dana. It's just, that's how they've started the process, and, you know, the record keeping is a big deal, you know, and if that's what's working right now, yeah, but if you want to incorporate the police at some point, then figure out how that can get incorporated at some
Because
point.
typically, if there's a ticket issued by the police department, there's a corresponding police report that goes into much more detail about who the suspects were, what the offense was, and that's entered into the system. So it's
I'm
much,
just envisioning it like the quick speeding ticket, you know, done.
oh, there's
A
more to a
efficient.
speeding ticket than
Yeah,
what you
they've
get.
got digital cameras in their cars now that they download every day.
Yep.
and there's a ton
Well,
of evidence.
then you got a picture.
There you
So,
go.
Yeah.
I
If
guess
we point the
the
car the right
reason,
way.
like, when we start talking about having the police involved and Raleigh said something that makes a lot of sense. When we go to yellow, which could happen soon, we don't know, Raleigh will not be able to keep up
No.
with enforcement. So we need to have a plan in place for when we go to yellow, how are we gonna manage this?
It'd be probably similar to what we did last year. we'd expand to more public works employees and or Paul or myself handing them out.
What we did last year, we'd take one day a week, you know, maybe it was 2 days a week, just depending on what our flows were. We would actually go out and I would send 2 guys out one direction, one part of town one day, 2 guys the other part of town. Doesn't take us long to drive through like your guys' area.
Yeah.
Or go over to the bluffs or just north of Ollie up here. Doesn't take long to go through there. So, I mean, I just tell them, hey, take an hour. I want you to hit this area and this area. If you see anything, water, anybody water, give me the address.
Yep.
Okay, but so that's catching those that are watering between 10 and 6, right? But,
Well, that's anytime. That was during our main.
Yeah.
So when we were here
Oh.
at 7 to 3:30,
okay,
they would tell me them numbers. Well, then the police department was giving me addresses too. And then we'd check them out the next day because if it was, like Brian said, I could still go there and I could tell that your irrigation was shut off within the last hour. Because the ground's wet, the street's wet, your driveway's wet, but nobody else's is.
yeah.
Pretty sure. You see a duck, it quacks like a duck. it's gonna be a duck.
It didn't rain on your yard.
Any good at flying a drone?
My son had one.
Don't tell him about that. Dave wants a drone too.
But in all reality,
With missiles on it.
yeah,
His was just a radar and a taser, I
Oh.
think.
Yeah.
No missiles.
no,
Radar and taser on
Yes.
its drone.
I like the
Wow.
taser idea. That'd be good.
We gotta get
But
something that
you
goes
get in
over
the
25
air, you'll be able to tell which houses are watering
Mhm.
almost instantly.
Even if you just
I
drive
can do
around.
that driving down the road.
Yep.
I can tell you which one's.
Well, you can cover
And
so
I
much.
can tell you which one's overwater.
Yeah.
Because the curb and gutter doesn't always shed the water the way it should, and I can see when it sits in front of your house for days at a time, and there hasn't been any rain for a week.
Yeah.
You're pretty regular water.
Prior to our water conservation committee, and I'll go back to what Brian was saying too, last year, the communication was something that we talked about virtually every day, how we could get communication of this out before the watering ban hit. And so when that became a city council decision and the group and trying to discuss what we were gonna do in this, what we were calling pretty much an emergency situation, if we got back into a situation like that where we had to go red, if we're all prepared for that backlash again, that could potentially happen, now we're what I would call a bigger, maybe unified group that has been working on this communication now for over 8 months. And obviously, we've gotten better at it. We have more tools and more, flyers and more of an idea of what it's gonna take to try to get this information out to people, some that don't care, some that don't listen,
Yep.
some that say it doesn't pertain to me. If, for whatever reason, we went from yellow to red and this happens again, just so that we're all unified in that force, I guess, if you wanna call it, that it could go back out on Facebook again and people are saying, well, what are you doing, city, and why are we back in this situation again? And what I was thinking, is there a way we could, I don't know, sort of come up with a timeline maybe of events that have happened since our previous water ban that says, water committee in place, this information was sent out, this mailer was sent out on this date, it was in the newspaper on this date, so here's, to be prepared, just in case that
I
did
think we
happen
need one.
again. We're not just communicating, but we're keeping track of our communication, so that,
Where
here
have
it
we been,
is.
where are we going? Yeah.
Right, here it is. I mean, yeah, we haven't necessarily done anything with our supply, our storage. We're working on that. We always talked about that our conservation was our main focus right away. Let's conserve water.
Yep.
If for whatever reason we have been doing something, here's the list of stuff. We throw it out there again, kind of back in your face, if you will, that
Right,
you're the one that's not paying attention here.
right.
I think that is a good idea, who wants to do it?
We can look it up.
Okay.
You know, the efforts that have been made, we've got all the records anyways, to the Facebook posts and the tweets and
Yeah.
Don't
And
forget,
all the agendas from
Yeah.
all the
And
meetings
minutes.
we've had.
And that's all I'm saying.
that gets
is
the
like,
press
just-
when I look at those.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that's part of it. Look at all the conservation, I mean, the conservation committee, the water committee meetings that we've
Yeah,
had,
all
but here's the
meetings
problem
we've
with that is, look back at our meetings on YouTube and look at the views that we had. When this first started, look at the audience that we had, and now that's obviously gone way down. I mean, you look at the views, it was a steady decline of views of the water committee meetings. And
Uh-huh.
And it went from maybe 1,500 to 1,000 to 800, 500 to 400, I think maybe at 200.
And
Yeah, I don't even think
we
we're
don't
there
have any
anymore.
residents here tonight in the audience.
We're not there. I mean, I think that first couple meetings, we had 20
You
plus
don't count as residents.
people. And now, we don't count you because you all have to be here.
It's still good, you know, what's going on, but
Right.
if what we are, our efforts, we want something to come of that, if for whatever reason it does go back to red, we're gonna hear about it, no doubt.
We can take a look at it, and then I can get a hold of the papers and find out how many times they had an article in the paper where it referenced the water committee. I mean, the water committee's had a monthly report for the last 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been very active, and maybe that's kind of the, keep it, tally how many meetings have we had? How many, just, we're working on stuff. Yes, it takes time to make this, to fix these issues that happened, and we are where we are, but it takes time to implement a plan, and we have to make a plan. So all that does take time, but in the end, conservation can save us. And it's
That's
very
a good
obvious.
plan.
I mean, if you look at the first part of May, we were under 1 million gallons of water. We were darn near under 800,000 gallons of water every day in May. And we had like 1 week of major rain in May. Otherwise, hardly any. So,
And then it got hot and people panicked.
Exactly.
I had a stump in my front yard from a tree that I cut down a few years ago. And I dug it out about 3 weeks ago during the hot spot. And it was 1.5 feet down, and it was still damp. The soil was still damp, 1.5 feet down. It was all the way down.
Yep.
So it's not like it was dry. It was wet. You could form it up, and that was in the middle of the hot spot.
Yeah.
So I think people think, oh, it's 90 out, I'm gonna turn my sprinkler on. It's not necessarily true.
Well, I'm on Facebook, and the amount of people that are asking, who should I have come fix my sprinkler system in the last week, it's unreal. I mean, that's been one of the things. I need to fix my sprinkler system. How do I get it fixed? Who do I call? And all the sprinkler people are out 2 weeks, so then they're panicking.
Yep.
And then you get people running in when it's broke, and they leave it on, or whatever it is. But you can definitely tell that the people are wanting their water lawns.
It's habit.
Yeah. So, and we're not gonna break that habit immediately. It takes time, but we're getting close to our triggers enough that I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think we've been clear for a long time that the year 2018, summer of 2018 is about residents following the lawn watering schedule, managing your daily usage. We'll get through this summer, but it's our citizens that have to do this. This is not like where Paul was going with this isn't what more is the city doing? It's, okay, now it's about you as customers, all of us as citizens saying, all right, I've got to change my habits. And we've provided the schedule, we've provided the triggers to show what happens if you don't adhere to the schedule. How much, we're going to need to continue to spread that message, but, we need people to pay attention too.
Right.
So 1.5, we'll send out text messages when we hit 1.5.
Yep.
Heaven forbid that we do go into red. Quite frankly, it's much easier to enforce
Yep.
in red than now, because there's no thought. Sprinklers on. We don't have to look at the address. We don't have to check too much. We've got a list of exceptions, 36 exceptions, where they put new sod or seed down.
Yep.
But that's all. Not all yet.
Oh, I want to talk about that before we adjourn, but go ahead.
So, unfortunately, from an enforcement standpoint, it's much easier when we're in red than anything else.
So with the signs, and we talked a lot about that too, and not to kind of go back and hash it, but I'm much more comfortable spending the $175, like Barb was talking. But if we go to red, I really think we're really gonna have to consider going to the $5 grand a week.
Yeah, if we go to red, we'll get the message boards out at that point in time and say it's a watering ban.
Just a question about, if Raleigh were to ever need extra help kind of monitoring this kind of stuff, do you ever have any casual employees who just come in when you have a need?
No.
Is that something that
Can't
might
even get
work?
part-time help.
Yeah.
For my department, what are you talking about?
Well, no, I'm
I
just,
had 3 people I was supposed to interview, and they all took different jobs elsewhere. And the day that they were supposed to have their interview, they called and said, hey, I'm not gonna be coming in because I accepted a different job, so.
Yeah, we don't. Actually, we haven't even talked about casual employees in some fashion.
It'd be nice if somebody just walked into City Hall, hey, you guys, something for me to do?
Right.
I think we should try not to get discouraged. You guys are all way too young to remember this, but I remember Lady Bird Johnson. We used to have trash in the ditches. It was
Right.
terrible. Lady Bird started that program. It took many years, but look at it now. So I think we just need to, it's gonna take a couple years at least.
Yep.
Try not to get discouraged, keep talking to people.
It's a
It'll
process.
happen.
To
Yeah.
piggyback on what Paul's saying, hindsight's 2020. This is the time now to do everything that we can so that you can't go back to the citizens and say, we had signs out on all of the entrances to Brandon. We had text alerts. We had it on Facebook. There was a postcard that was mailed out mid-June. It was in your water bill. I mean, it's just anything and everything that you can do to, back up the cause.
I tell Brian all the time, I don't know how more transparent we can be.
But I
That's
think
the
sometimes
thing, I
it's
mean-
easy to think of.
If you don't wanna be informed, then I can't inform you. Because
Right.
You're not gonna listen,
Even-
you're not gonna be on social media, you're not gonna be on Textedly, you're not gonna read it in the paper, you're not gonna see it. The one time you'll see it is when we go to red, KDLT or KSFY picks it up on the news, then you're gonna see it.
Even then, we had people last year with the signs out. Didn't you see the signs? Yeah, but I didn't read them.
Yeah, I saw it there, but I thought.
I mean,
it was
there's
construction.
gonna be a certain sector that we are not going to reach.
For
Yes.
sure.
That's
I
just the
think
way
we
it
just
is.
need to be conscious of the average citizen is leaving Brandon and spending their day in Sioux Falls, and they're coming home and they're busy with kids.
Yep.
Barb and I had a conversation, and right after the election, Barb was talking to somebody, didn't know there was an election. It's like, how do you miss that?
In my neighborhood, and he's like a 62-year-old guy. There are signs all over my neighborhood. He lives up the street. Oh, I didn't know there was an election. I'm going,
There is still ignorance out there. There is.
someone that age, you
Ignorance
would
is
think.
bliss.
Oh.
Until Raleigh shows up at your door.
Oh.
Most people don't wanna see this coming.
Right.
So could I ask
So-
a question of you, Brian, and maybe Raleigh needs to hear it too, if he's the guy who approves the.
I'm the man.
Okay, I went in, Lipinski's is gonna do, we're gonna be the pilot project for this Lipinski thing. And I'm also having Lipinski's dump 1.5 ton of dirt around a tree of ours. He said it's gonna take 1.5 ton, I can't probably believe
It's not that much.
it. Okay.
You think a ton and a half is a lot, but it's.
It's not, till you carry
He's
it.
gonna spread it around, we've got the roots that are coming up out of the ground, and my husband's starting to mow the roots. So he said, this is what we need to do. And so I went in the day of the election, and I thought I might need a watering permit. But it's like a 15-foot diameter area, and reading through this, it says 2 times a day for 10 minutes on each zone. Well, I'm not even gonna be using the zone, I'm gonna use the hose.
But I've denied people already just for the simple fact it's in a shaded area. If you got a tree that's big enough where the roots are coming out, it's gonna shade that area. You can still follow your normal watering restrictions and make that work.
But I mean, he's gonna put that grass seed, and he says, I need to keep the grass seed wet.
No.
That's what everybody else has told me.
I had a strawberry patch in my backyard that my dog killed, finally. So I dug it up, spaded it up, put grass seed on it. I watered it maybe every other day this spring. It's up and thick as can be. And it was every other day watering. I didn't do every day. I didn't even do it for 10 minutes. I did it once a day, every other day with my hose.
So I guess, I mean, I'm gonna be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I need a watering permit to do that?
If you do it every other day, you don't.
Okay,
As long as it's your odd or even day.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
what I'm trying to get at. Your odd or even day, you're gonna get, 1 week, you're gonna get 4 days a week to water, next week, you might only get 3 days a week to water. You're gonna be able to saturate it enough. 'Cause your lawn, even if it's seed, it only takes an inch a week.
If you're doing it with your hose, just as long as you
Yeah,
keep it
just
in.
that way spray.
You know, a couple other things that helps out quite a bit with retention of moisture is the green stuff.
That's what it is. It's
Hydro
gonna be
mulch.
Hydro mulch.
Hydro.
Does a great thing. The other thing that,
Grass clippings,
that
Oh, I see what you're.
compost. If you can find someplace with compost, and you can put a layer of compost on your soil, it does wonders. And we just got a flyer, a request for a study that a PhD student out at the School of Mines is doing related to compost and water usage. So he's trying to relate it back. And we're kind of looking at going, you want sales tax number and gallons of water used to figure out if mulch, I don't know where you're going with this, but good luck. But no, studies say if you put, you know, a couple of inches, you put your black dirt down and then you put your compost down, it does wonders for water retention.
Okay,
Keeps
and I
the
can
seed wet.
do that even though he's putting this, what kind of seed is he gonna put on?
If you hydromulch it with the green stuff,
It's got a filter.
What is the green stuff called? What is that?
Hydro seed.
Okay, hydro seed, okay. That's what he's gonna.
that helps to retain the water.
So then I can,
It's like
oh, I thought that was the seed.
The seed's in there,
Yeah,
typically.
okay, so are you saying to, like, we could get the grass from the rest of the lawn and sprinkle it on there?
No, the seed will be in the hydromulch,
Yeah,
and then, so your area is gonna be seeded, and then if you just wanna water it every other day,
okay.
it'll work.
Means it's in a shaded area, it's not gonna tend to dry out as much.
My strawberry patch was full sun, with nothing, the telephone ped was there, but other than that, there was no shade.
And he's probably doing the right thing by telling you to keep it wet and moist all day long. Contractors don't like to come back to a work site twice when a property owner calls them and tells them the grass isn't growing in a month.
Yeah.
And they have to redo it. So typically
They overdo it.
They oversell the water a little bit. And I give them credit, I mean, they don't want to come back to it.
And
Do that
when
with
Raleigh
the
put
area.
those together last year, he didn't pull them out of thin air, he talked with Gal Baby and Oak Ridge to develop those watering issues, or, yeah, for sod and seed. So it's, he did his research to the two folks that do most of the sod and seed in town. Actually, they do most of ours. So it's not, hey, we just think we can get by with this. They said that's, well, yeah.
Good things I'm trying to run him out of business because I'm telling him there's watering restrictions. And one gentleman, 2001, Tyler, I think it was, he said, well, he's telling me to water it 3 times a day.
Four.
4 times a day at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, well, you can do that, but watering restrictions of the city he says you cannot water anytime, even if you get an exception. Well, who's telling me the truth here? Well, I'm telling you, you're gonna get fined, and $100 is coming out of your pocket, not his, so who do you wanna believe?
So, no, we understand that the contractors, they don't want to come back if sod dies. The other component that we may want to look at in the future is pushing seeding instead of sodding. Everybody wants that green yard right away, but you get a much better product, use much less water by seeding than using sod.
So it's this
Yep.
Yep.
It's because the seed goes into the ground right away, the sod lays on top of the ground, and the more people water it, it doesn't grow anywhere else.
So that's another component
Yeah,
that we
it's
can
an
look at.
instant yard.
Yeah. Very good. Everybody ready? We didn't make it done before 7, but close.
We're close.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. As always, if you have agenda items, please send me an email. I'll make sure it's on the agenda for the next month. We'll be watching the water usages. You can see it on the city website. If you have questions on usages, I'm keeping a pretty good pulse on it with Raleigh, so get a hold of me or Raleigh. Very good.
Next meeting date?
The next meeting date is
Yep.
If you would've made it here
July
on time.
10th and then August 7th.
Kevin says if you would have made it here on time, you would have known
I know, dang it.
I
I had to put out a fire, like literally a fire.
Nice.
At work?
Yes. Literally, I got to put out a fire. And then I got to
Nice.
come to a water committee, so I feel really well-rounded.
That's good.
Hope we didn't lose a lot of product using an extinguisher.
Yeah, it was interesting but fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did you shut that?
Learning. Putting out fire. It was a dehydrating plant, so we had fire.